It's my nerd world, and welcome to it. I'm your host, Jon Justice, and yes, I have seen the footage. Yes, I have many words to share with you about the footage. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, D23, a special look. Really excited to talk about this in this bonus episode of My Nerd World, the Star Wars podcast, of course, brought to you by mynerdworld.net, where you can find out all the information you need, not only about the podcast, but the EMBARK science fiction space opera series. Let's get right to it.
We've passed on all we know. A 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My Nerd World.
Just let it in.
I just woke up from a nap. Welcome to My Nerd World, a Star Wars podcast. I'm not kidding. I was at work this morning doing my Monday through Friday talk show host job when, of course, like all of us, we were breathlessly anticipating what so many hundreds of others were able to see over the weekend, and that was this D23 Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker special look. And it did not disappoint by any stretch. As a matter of fact, I think I can easily say, as I mentioned in a blast earlier this morning, that Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is the Star Wars movie that I am anticipating the most, even more so than I was The Force Awakens. And there's a couple of very specific reasons why that is the case. And it makes sense when you consider this is the end of this particular trilogy. That was the start of the trilogy, and so at the start of a trilogy, you want to know how is it going to start, but then you get to the end, and now you want to know how is it going to end. The thing that has me so excited about this movie is that it really does feel like they're going for it. Every single shot that they have shown us, for the most part, there's a couple of quick sort of like a shot of a static shot of Leia, right? And or Leia hugging Rey doesn't really do a lot for me. But the key moments that I'll talk about in this special look, every single one has me intrigued to the nth degree and excited to see how this whole thing is going to shake out. I'm not going to spend a ton of time theorizing in this podcast today. I will be doing some, but I'm not going to spend a ton of time theorizing. I really just want to drive at the essence of these particular shots and just talk about why they have me excited. And again, I'll get into a little bit of this and a little bit of speculation here and there, but I'm not going to go too far down the dark side cave hole on Octo into the speculation part of it. Not yet, at least. I'm going to reserve some of that until I've had a chance to breathe. Again, waiting for this footage to drop, having to do my regular radio show. I'm also in the process of the posting of the audiobook for EMBARK Treasure in Darkness Book 2. And so I've been desperate to get that up and posted. And so right now I'm in the middle of doing my listening sessions to make sure that every single chapter is exactly where it needs to be. So I'm juggling all these things at once. And like I said, I just got up from a nap because I was exhausted and I really wanted to sit down and record this podcast, but I had a bunch of stuff I had to do first. So it's going to kind of be all over the place. I have a handful of notes in front of me. My instinctive reaction from the special look. I also have a bunch of notes from the post D23 interviews done with the cast members, and so we'll kind of piece a few things together, and we will do a little bit of speculating, but not a lot of hard speculating. And then we've got a lot of listener feedback that I want to get to. This includes stuff from last week and stuff that you have written since the Sunday show, which I guess was only... Oh my gosh, or Saturday show, right? The Saturday show. There has been one day, at least, in between. And so that's going to be the core of the show this week. Again, some instinctive reaction, a little bit of theorizing. I've got some notes here from MakingStarWars.net. I have some commentary from the cast members and listener feedback. And of course, throughout this whole process, always feel free to email me, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, or drop me a comment on YouTube. So let's start here. This has me excited because every single shot, I want to see what it is. And by example, I remember going into The Last Jedi, and I wasn't all that thrilled with the idea of the Canto Bight sequence. We knew about this casino sequence and that this is where our heroes were going to be going at some point in the film. And that part of it, prior to seeing the movie, didn't really excite me. I want to be in the core of the story, and the idea of a casino didn't really wow and thrill me. And as I've mentioned many times, I've grown to love the Canto Bight sequence. But that was all based off of what we'd heard prior, and then even seeing the trailer footage, the teaser trailer footage from The Last Jedi, there was a lot of, that's interesting, that's weird, that's different, but there wasn't a lot of, oh my gosh, what in the world are they showing me? J.J. Abrams is delivering the, oh my gosh, what in the world are they showing me? Some of the shots in this just have blown my mind and have me, like I said, to the nth degree excited about this movie. So let's start off here. This is a series of comments from the cast members after D23, and I made a list here. I pulled the majority of this off of StarWarsNewsNet.com. So we'll start off here. It's worth pointing out that the coverage of the event, StarWars.com, described the scene with Rey and the red lightsaber like this. The new footage, including a moment where Rey appears to toss a fully ignited lightsaber, and of course the vision of Rey with a reticulated red blade, nothing short of thrilling. Fans then pointed out that the sentence ended up being reworded, but the new footage, including a moment where Rey appears to toss a fully ignited lightsaber, and of course the sight of Rey with a reticulated red blade, was nothing short of thrilling. So here's my take on the change there. And I pointed this out. Actually, I think this dropped after I was done with the show on Saturday, the vision part of it. I doubt that the person writing at StarWars.com has any more inside information than maybe you and I do. The host, Andy and Anthony of the Star Wars show, have mentioned several times that they don't have any inside track on when trailers and stuff are going to be released. And they don't know either what's going to happen inside the story, right? They may have a little bit more insight because they work at Lucasfilm, but I imagine that if it's like any sort of office, the big wigs are always going to know stuff that the rest of the rest of the staff doesn't know. There's a very tight circle of individuals that know about these films. So my guess is the person that wrote that was writing it just as you or I would. They happen to work for Lucasfilm. They saw the footage, then wrote about the footage, and didn't realize that the word vision was going to be taken so literally by fans, and so they reworded it to say the sight of Rey. Because, of course, J.J. Abrams is going to want us as fans to be speculating on what Darkseid Rey is really all about. And I'll have more comments on Darkseid Rey a little bit later on. So I would not put a whole lot of... I wouldn't put a whole lot into the changes or the wording either way. My point is, it's still completely open to speculation. Okay. Don't want to dig too much into this, looking at the writing here. It's very possible, again, they edited the words so the fans are not misled. We've seen a similar lightsaber in the TV show Rebels, when Kanan encountered the spectral forms of several temple guards, including the Grand Inquisitor in the abandoned Jedi Temple on Lothal through a Force vision. We've seen that lightsaber before, and it looks almost identical. I'll have more on that double-bladed, reticulated switchblade lightsaber in a moment. All right. The cast talked with IGN about the Emperor. Interesting quote from Daisy Ridley. He is very instrumental to the plot of the film. It's not like he just appears again. It's all explained. So it really does appear as if the Emperor is back in the flesh, right? The fact that she says, okay, it's not like he just appears again. It's all explained. Now, granted, that still could be he's possessing somebody, but they really do seem to be driving the point home that it's not just like he appears. He's certainly on the poster that was released over the weekend. And J.J. Abrams even said he was on the set and was surprised that that wasn't leaked. Okay. Another quote from John Boyega about the movie. Definitely the scale, the scope of things. A whole bunch of Death Stars parked up in the air perfectly. That was a bit strange. I don't know why that's happening because they wiped out my memory. Okay, so according to what's written here, while this almost sounded like a joke, a bunch of Death Stars up in the air fits with the new kind of Star Destroyer that we've talked about before. Okay, I will get into more of this a little bit later on, because I was kind of under the impression for a moment that all those Star Destroyers in the special look could have also been a vision. I don't think that's the case, and I actually think that I have evidence that that's not the case. Kelly Marie Tran reveals that the Rise of Skywalker will have a groundbreaking ending, and Daisy Ridley said they did explore things in an old journey. Okay. I think for the most part, the thing to take from the whole snippet is that the ending of this whole film is going to be really, really groundbreaking in a good way, said Tran. I think there's a lot of little pieces from the older films and everyone together in this one. We're going out with a bang. Daisy Ridley said after the panel, I think that it should hopefully show people that we did a big old journey and we explored some things. So you'll just have to wait until the film. And again, this is in reference to the Darkseid Rey. Okay. J.J. Abrams on Carrie Fisher said, the strange bit that Carrie Fisher knew she will work with him twice. The character of Leia is really the heart of the story. We couldn't possibly tell the end of these 9 films without Leia. The crazy part is, I was not supposed to be directing this film. We lost Carrie, heartbreakingly. And we started figuring out the story. And I remembered this thing I read, and people have asked me for years, what is Carrie like? She was almost supernaturally witty in a way. And I went back and looked in her last book, and she had written a special thanks. And a special thanks to J.J. Abrams for putting up with me twice. But I'd only worked with her once. I wasn't supposed to direct it. So it was a classic Carrie thing to write something like that. We cannot wait for you to see her performance as Leia. Okay, so those were just a few quotes that I wanted to share with you in talking about this special footage that was released. Okay, so let's get into the special footage. And I'm going to start off real quick by reading some of the commentary from Jason Ward at MakingStarWars.net. I do this because I find Jason Ward's comments rather interesting because he seems to know quite a bit about the film, even things that he hasn't let on yet. So oftentimes his comments are a little bit more compelling than other individuals' comments, in my opinion, because of the fact that he does seem to have some knowledge, and he said several times that he hasn't shared everything that he knows. So this is what he had to say. The REY shot was so shocking at D23 it scrambled my brain. As I look at it here, it looks a little strange, like it wasn't filmed, but rather created digitally. Okay? Again, I'm going to talk way more about this in just a few minutes. The Star Destroyers are the old ones from Darth Vader's Day 2. We thought so at D23 with only seeing it once, but we weren't sure. The shots of the Star Destroyers seem to support the idea that they're out in the beyond territories, where space is unsafe, as evidenced by the lightning storms we see, which may support the Sith fleet story we've heard recently. I also enjoyed seeing all the various ships in the Resistance Rebel fleet. We have all the classic ships back, but nothing too new either. Again, I'll get into more of that coming up. The beam of light hitting the ground is as powerful as the Death Star Starkiller base type weapon, but it is red, not green, like a Death Star laser for what it's worth. Janna and Finn seem to be in a storm-like area, like where we see the Star Destroyers. The special look was neat. Imagine how cool the actual trailer is going to be. The more we see of the film, the more I like. I hope that we don't have to wait too much longer to see more, but I'm pretty excited by the scope of the movie. All right, so now into my specific commentary, now that we've got that out of the way. First off, I think it's really odd that we didn't get the behind-the-scenes reel. Even when this was being talked about over the weekend, before we'd seen anything, people were calling it behind the scenes. But this really, truly was a sizzle reel. This is a montage that I had said a long time ago that Disney should have done. Now, that being said, they didn't really go over the top when it comes to encapsulating all of the other films in this particular special look. They do show clips of all the other movies. I do understand that. But they could have really amped it up quite a bit, and they didn't. They kept it really simple, and I actually really appreciate that about it. This was a very short 2 minutes and 12-second special look that did have little clips from other films that were interspersed in it, then ending with this really extended teaser trailer is what it ended up being. We ended up getting another teaser trailer. I find it really fascinating that we got that and not the behind-the-scenes video, and I can't help but wonder if the reason is because they really do want to control the messaging for this movie. And showing the behind-the-scenes reel, which I bet has been put together because they usually show that for the cast members when filming has wrapped. They did it for Rogue One, they did it for The Force Awakens, they did it for The Last Jedi, they probably did it with Solo too. My guess is they really want to be able to control the messaging and the promotion of this movie. And that's why we didn't get the behind the scenes, and we probably won't get it at all until after the movie gets released. I imagine that it's probably going to end up being one of those things that is put on the physical release of the film or something they use to promote the film once it's already out there and released. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about the promotion of the film before I get into my thoughts of all the individual moments from this special look. I do find it really interesting, and I'm guilty of this as well, that while we had been starved for information since April on this movie, and we did have to wait longer for anything new. Normally we get something in July, so we had to wait all the way until almost the end of August before we got anything new. And then in doing so, what did they do? They hit us upside the head with some incredible visuals from this film, and we are all excited all over again. So I guess all of this is to say that I'm going to apologize for being negative on not having, as a fan, the marketing play out earlier than it did, because boy, wasn't it worth the wait with some of the iconic images that we've seen in this already. And I'll keep saying it throughout the show this week. They really are going for it. There is nothing in this that seems like a rehash. Everything seems like, oh my gosh, you're not going to put like a handful of Star Destroyers. You're going to put like a couple hundred Star Destroyers. Oh my gosh, you're going to show us Rey with a double-bladed switchblade lightsaber in dark clothing. You're going to show us that. the images of Kylo Ren just look incredible. Now, I do have, and like I said, I'll do some theorizing. I do have a bit of a theory of what all this stuff is that we're seeing. But hat tip to Disney and Lucasfilm for providing us with these images and really not holding back, except to say that maybe they are holding back, and what they haven't shown us is really going to blow my mind. I've never reacted like this to footage before. And this has been every step of the way for the Rise of Skywalker. My mouth was agape when I saw the teaser trailer with that opening shot of Rey flipping over Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter. And apparently that's officially what it's called, Kylo Ren's TIE Fighter. This would be the one that has the wings of his TIE silencer, but the cockpit of a normal sort of Special Forces TIE, because it's painted like a Special Forces TIE. The images in this, I am desperate to find out, right? Using J.J. Abrams' word, I'm desperate to find out what all of this means. And so, you know what? Disney's doing a good enough job, and I think this movie is going to be huge. If they continue with the marketing this way and keep pushing out these little tiny clips the way that they have that have this kind of impact, oh my gosh, it is going to be a long wait until December. I'm so glad we get the Mandalorian in between to sort of fill the need for some new Disney content, because I am clamoring to see what this movie is all about. All right, so let's get into some of this. Some of the things that really stuck out to me. Some of these iconic shots. Let me start off first with some vehicles. We'll get that out of the way, because if you listen to the show for any length of time, you know how much I love the vehicles. The shot in the twilight of the Resistance ships showing up from out of, it looks like they're showing up out of hyperspace. They seem to be flying really quick and then stopping, which is, very typical in the films of seeing the ships arrive from flying at hyperspace. We got A-wings, we got Y-wings, we got B-wings. We have a Corellian Corvette, probably not the Tantive 4, because we know that one got destroyed according to canon. And we also have another ship that some people thought might have been the Falcon. A closer look, it's not the Falcon. However, it does look a little bit like, and hat tip to Zach from Knights of Vader for letting me know that some of his fans on their Facebook page pointed this out, that it looks a little bit like the Ebon Hawk. Also, there's some individuals that were saying, and I wrote it down, I just have to go and find it. Somebody had mentioned that perhaps it was Zori Bliss's ship, the Kerry Russell character, and that could be the case, except for the fact that we do have a Lego set where she has her own white and red adorned Y-wing. So, I mean, she could certainly go and fly a Y-wing later on for the closing end battle, but that's according to the Lego set. It could very well be her ship. But that image, and I mentioned this on the weekend show, of just the amassing of a large number of ships is just one of the things that one of my favorite visuals when it comes to sort of a war battle scene. Then we get to those hundreds of old Star Destroyers. Now, I thought for a moment, because I'm under the impression that a lot of what we're seeing in this trailer could be stuff of the Force Flash fights that we've heard so much about. Specifically, the Kylo Ren shot of him dragging his lightsaber across the snow with his TIE Fighter in the background, and even perhaps the dark side Rey. I'll get to more of that coming up. I think there is easily some of the imagery that we're seeing that seems a little bit kind of what and weird, could actually be stuff from the Force Flash fight. So I thought for a moment that maybe all those Star Destroyers was that as well. However, there's a shot in the special look where you see a shot from underneath of the hundreds upon hundreds, rows upon rows of these old Star Destroyers. There's also another shot where you get a view of the tops of the Star Destroyers. That view of the tops of the Star Destroyers, right, one, confirms that they are from the original trilogy era Star Destroyers, and two, there's actually some red striping along the sides of the Star Destroyers, and to me, this would indicate that this is most likely the Sith fleet that we've been hearing about, and it's probably filled with Sith troopers. The other interesting thing to note is that the underneath of those Star Destroyers are a bunch of massive, what appear to be super weapon lasers, which a lot of people have been pointing to could be what is shooting the red laser to the surface of the planet that's blowing up. That looks an awful lot like Kimji? Is it Kimji? The snow planet that we saw from the trailer that we know that our heroes go to. So I'm envisioning a scenario where Zori Bliss is on that planet, the Resistance, our heroes show up there, they're looking for information. That's apparently where the droid factory should be. She has to help get them off because potentially the First Order shows up and begins bombarding an aerial bombardment of the planet. I think that absolutely could shake out that way. We also got a shot of Finn and Jannah, the new character, in the cockpit of a ship. And you can see in the background there's somebody piloting the ship. The cockpit does not look familiar by any stretch. I'd have to go and look at it again because I do wonder whether or not that would be the interior of that Corellian Corvette. But they are definitely in the cockpit of the ship. And from outside, you can see green laser flyer, which is indicative of the bad guys, right? And some people said they also saw some lightning as well. So perhaps that scene that we saw of the Star Destroyers coming out from wherever they're coming out with the lightning is also the scene, the major battle of the film. Going back to the teaser trailer that was released in April, the one shot that we see of a spinning A-Wing that's crashing. It's passing by a Star Destroyer. I think now we have confirmation of that Star Destroyer. One, of people saying it looked like an old school original Star Destroyer. It also appeared to have red on it in the teaser, and that tells me that's not a Vision, which has me so excited. How in the world did they amass that many Star Destroyers, and where have they been sitting all this time? It goes back to the rumor for making StarWars.net that they've been in the unknown regions, and maybe the Knights of Ren have brought them back. But oh my gosh, how did they amass a fleet that big? And how in the world is the Resistance going to go and take those guys down? All right. Let's see. We talked about the red laser blast. C-3PO with the red eyes. Really cool vision. Vision. I did what the Star Wars article did. Really cool visual of seeing C-3PO with the red eyes. There's been a lot of talk that perhaps they download memories into him, but he also gets uploaded with a new operating system that makes him more combat ready, which would explain why we've seen some of the images of him with the bandolier on and a bowcaster, and perhaps we get something closer to what we saw in Attack of the Clones, where he swaps heads with the battle droid and ends up going off and, a battle, right? Okay, so that was really cool. This is completely side, by the way. Can you tell how excited I am, by the way? This is completely off to the side, but just a quick note. The tone of the red they're using is really unique. I know that may sound weird, but like C-3PO's eyes, they're like almost like a candy apple red. And when we get to the dark side Rey at the end of the trailer, it's the same thing. That red is really, really pronounced. Especially when you compare it to going back to the original trilogy and when they did the upgrade on the special editions for the Blu-ray release. For those that own those, I think it was probably most of you, when they did the restoration on the film, there are several shots in there where they kind of screwed it up. Some of the explosions from A New Hope look almost in black and white. But specifically, the color of Darth Vader's lightsaber at the end of Return of the Jedi, it's got this pinkish hue to it. So it really makes the red, especially of a lightsaber, stand out in the sequel trilogy because it's so pronounced. We got that amazing shot of Rey on a jungle planet throwing her lightsaber and then grabbing it like a boomerang when it comes back. Many people have been pointing out to the red piece of cloth that appears to be on her hand. A lot of people speculating what that is. I have absolutely no idea. It looks like a bandage, if anything. I didn't notice this until somebody pointed it out, because at first I thought, well, I wonder if she's trying to make a clearing. Perhaps like a vehicle is coming down the land and she needs to clear out the trees. And so rather than walk by and, sort of swipe at all of them one by one with a lightsaber, she decides to throw it and take them all down. But somebody pointed out that there actually is a Jedi training remote that's floating in the forest that she's aiming at, which I also find is really interesting because, okay, where did she get the training remote from? And we're going to see her doing some more training. That's pretty interesting. All right. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to get until we get to the red? Oh, Kylo and the TIE Silencer on the snow planet. Again, just the visual is incredible. Why is he landing that TIE fighter on the snow planet, and why is he igniting his lightsaber? Unless, like people have pointed out, there's lightning going off in the background. Perhaps that's part of the Force Flash fight. Apparently, in the teaser trailer, right as Rey goes to flip over his TIE fighter at the beginning of the trailer on Pisana, people have been saying that the ground turns green. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, so there's a lot of speculation that that too is a Force Flash fight, and perhaps that moment she does disable Kylo Ren's TIE fighter for some reason, but he is able to land it, and him walking over the snow planet and engaging his lightsaber, he actually drags it across the ground, could potentially be sort of a transition moment in their fight as they go from location to location. All right, let's get to the Dark Side Rey, and then I'm going to get to your listener feedback. The Dark Side Rey is really interesting and peculiar. That's really the only word that I can use to describe it. It's just peculiar. Rey looks extremely thin. Her neck looks really long. The first thing that I'll point out is the hood is up really high on her head. And the only explanation that I can think of is that if it is Rey, if she still has her hair done up in the baubles, then perhaps that would cause the hood to sit that high on her head. Like I'm looking at the Force Awakens poster right now in Kylo Ren's hood. And it's up high, but he's also got his helmet on. And so it makes sense that his hood would be sitting up that high. But the hood on Rey is sitting up like it should be more flush to the top of her head. So I find that odd. Her neck looks really, really stretched. She looks really, really thin, almost like sickly thin. Right? And she's already an incredibly fit woman and she's thin, but it just looks like the way and it could just be the way that she's standing. Okay. People have mentioned she looks very stoic. I think a part of this is because that shot is so quick. It really is. I mean, even the second part of the shot when she ignites it and it zooms in on her face, it almost looked like that was done just for the special look, and maybe it's not presented that way in the movie. Also, people have pointed out that on the right side of the screen there looks to be a piece of clothing that is, and somebody is moving away. So here's the thing on that. That could be a vision. Okay, I fully admit that. And I can see I can see that making a heck of a lot of sense, that it's a vision. Akin to Luke in the Dark Side Cave. If this movie is going to be as long as we are expecting, then I could certainly see how there would be room to play with a scene like that. That would probably take a little bit of time to get through. John Williams was quoted over the weekend saying that he's already recorded 100 minutes of audio and still had 40 minutes of audio left. And again, The Last Jedi was the longest movie, and it had 70 minutes of audio. I'm going to throw out one little tiny thing real quick. I don't think there's any credibility to this comment, but I just want to toss it out there. I think there is a teeny tiny possibility that this movie could actually be in two parts. Based off the length of the script, which we've been told several times from people in the know that it's the longest script ever, based on 140 minutes, 135 to 140 minutes of actual recorded music, wouldn't it be something if we went to the theaters in December, saw this movie, but it ended on a cliffhanger to be concluded, to be continued, and we got the second part in December of next year, which would go and certainly make a heck of a lot more sense for Celebration in August, and would also make a heck of a lot more sense as to why we'll have to wait another 2 years, 2022, for a new Star Wars movie. Now, I don't really think that's going to happen. I just wanted to throw it out there in the slight possibility that maybe they're pulling an Endgame on us and just aren't telling us. An Infinity War Endgame. Infinity War and Endgame were all shot at the same time. And my understanding was Endgame was done for the longest time. I don't think it's going to happen. I just wanted to toss it out there just in case. All right, back to Dark Side Rey. A lot of people are talking clone. I still have such a hard time with the clone theory. I know I talked about it on the weekend show, and I made a comment that was a big possibility, but honestly, I really do think that when it comes to the cloning angle of this whole thing, it diminishes the character. Because to me, the moment you go, she's a copy of somebody else, to me, it takes away some of the humanity of that character. And I think Rey deserves a heck of a lot more. I do think there's a possibility that Palpatine did have something to do with her existence in some way, shape, or form. Certainly that could go back to Anakin, and, we will watch your career with great interest in the comic book that showed that Palpatine was messing with Shmi before Anakin was born. Okay, so I do think, and of course, due to the fact too that Anakin was a virgin, was a virgin birth, and that was also part of the prophecy. Okay, I putting that aside, I don't think it's a clone. So it's either a vision, or Rey really does go dark for a period of time in the film. I don't know how we get to that spot. Right now, I don't know how we get to any of this. I'm back to the same level of confusion that I had knowing what we knew about The Last Jedi and the whole where is Crate going to play out. Thinking that Crate was going to be somewhere in another part of the film, and the ending of the film was going to be something more akin to the throne scene, and we all know how that ended up playing out. A lot of people are speculating about, and this is one thing I didn't talk about, the special look showed Kylo Ren and Rey fighting on the remnants of the Death Star. We assume the Death Star 2, and perhaps that's not taking place at the end of the film. Perhaps that's somewhere in the middle of the film. And there's another facet to this, and I'll tell you why there's some confusion there as well, because I do have a couple of questions on some other things. So, who knows when the Dark Side Rey takes place in the movie, and if it really is Rey, who knows how in the world we get there, because I really don't know. I've got a couple of sort of working theories in my head where I wonder if it is Palpatine's return, and he does have something to do with her existence in some way, shape, or form, and Rey sees her going to the dark side as the only way she can go and save the Resistance and bring balance, which could potentially mean that Kylo Ren has to turn to the light side to bring her back, and therefore we've got an interesting dynamic that we didn't expect before, where it was actually Rey who went dark and Kylo who ended up going light. And again, this is the bit of speculation that I was planning on doing all along on the show this time around. The only thing that really pushes back on the Force vision theory with Darkseid Rey is this. If you're going to show a vision of Rey succumbing to the dark side, let's say this is her version of Luke in the dark side cave in The Empire Strikes Back, and she's seeing what could become if she doesn't do the right thing, okay? Why would you go and give her such a unique lightsaber apart from it just looking cool? That seems oddly specific to me. Like, if you're going to show a Darkseid Rey, and even though the fans aren't aware, who haven't read the material to know about, kyber crystal bleeding and what turns a lightsaber's color to red, you could, if it's a vision, easily go and give the Legacy Saber a red blade, put her in the dark side clothing, and convey the same image. I just find it really, really odd that saber is so unique and different that it would only be that way to be something cool for a vision. And I know it's possible, and if you're seeing a vision, it's a glimpse into the future of what could be, in which case you could get that lightsaber and make it after she's turned to the dark side. I fully understand that. I just am very confused by why they would go so far as to make such a unique lightsaber for just a vision. I've also seen some rumors floating out around there. It's Palpatine showing her a vision of perhaps her mother and where she came from, and her mom was actually a part of the dark side or something of this nature. And I haven't read a ton of those theories. I've really just been sort of swimming in my own excitement of seeing what I'm seeing without really extrapolating or going too deep on some of the other fandom theories about what that could be. But what do you think? TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. Drop me a comment on YouTube. I really want to know what your thoughts are so far. And, don't worry even about having to provide an explanation. Just, I'm curious to get your vibes and what you think of all the footage so far. Does it have you more excited than the other films? Is it sparking your imagination the way you want Star Wars to spark your imagination? It certainly is. It certainly is for me. The visuals of this are just so incredibly compelling, and I'm just clamoring to see this movie. And I've not been this excited since The Force Awakens, and to be honest with you, I'm even more excited. The visuals of this blow away the visuals that we saw in The Force Awakens. What we saw with The Force Awakens was something new that looked like the old stuff. It had a familiarity to it. It had the nostalgia to it. It didn't have anything that wasn't completely unexpected, in my opinion. The shots that we're seeing are completely unexpected. Rey and Kylo Ren fighting on the remnants of the Death Star like that. How are they going to get off of that? 100 Star Destroyers. You know, the B-Wings and the Y-Wings and the A-Wings. All right, where did they get those from? And how are they going to go and battle that? And here's the other thing. I just now remember, and then we'll get to your listener feedback. There's still something going on with Kylo Ren's mask. I have not been able to wrap my head around it. The poster shows Kylo Ren in the mask facing off against Rey, right? Okay. Now, granted, that could just be for the poster, but they look to be standing on some remnants of the Death Star, and he's wearing the mask. All right. In the toy packaging, we see him with the mask. But in every single shot that we've seen from the film, he's not wearing the mask, right? In the shot that we see of him in the TIE Fighter, he's not wearing the mask. In the shot that we see in the special look of him on the snow planet igniting his lightsaber, he's not in the mask. In the shot of them fighting on the Death Star, he's not in the mask, but he's in the mask on the poster. We see the mask being put back together, but we have yet to actually see Kylo Ren wearing it in any footage, and I want to know what's going on with the mask. We saw it with that pendant and that piece of marketing from Loungefly that showed her facing off, again, against somebody who's wearing the mask. And it could just be they changed their minds, maybe. They didn't want to put Kylo Ren on the poster without him wearing the mask. I just find it odd. Oh, and again, the promotional poster shows him with the mask on. But again, in the footage that we've seen, he's not wearing it. I don't have the answers, do you? TalkShowNerd@gmail.com, or again, drop me a comment on YouTube.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. I've got a bunch of listener feedback to work through. I'm going to stick this week. I'm going to save some of these because there's some of these that are from last week. I'm going to save some of these from last week for this show coming up this coming weekend, okay, because we're getting real close together on the shows. I'm going to focus on the stuff that's come in over the weekend, okay, since we're talking about this special look. So we'll start off with Alex Sheppers, who says this. Question: regarding the rumored leaks about Rey mercy killing Ben Solo, Girls with Sabers has voiced that it's not proper writing for a Star Wars film, as it is too adult for a kids film, unlike something akin to Endgame, and ultimately sends a bad message to children that evil can only die by hurt / suicide / mercy killing. What are your thoughts? Love Girls with Sabers. I disagree with this take. I don't know if it's going to happen in the film, but I disagree with this take. It really all depends on how things are handled in the film from a visual standpoint. Star Wars has gone to places like that many times over, again and again and again. Maybe not so far as to show a mercy killing, but certainly when it comes to some of the battles, if you had told fans that there's going to be a shot in The Revenge of the Sith that has Anakin Skywalker walking into a room of younglings, and the implication, because we're shown it later, is that he's killing the younglings, you could have made a similar argument. Okay, so no, I don't think that there's, I don't think that is too far over the line for Disney to go and show, especially if he gets redeemed. Right? So I disagree. I love the girls with sabers, but I disagree that Disney wouldn't do that because it sends a wrong message. You could say that about 100 different things from all of the Star Wars movies, and in my opinion, they've all handled the adult material very well, and even the stuff that's been more gruesome. I mean, for crying out loud. Well, okay, hold on. You can actually make this example with Revenge of the Sith, in what Obi-Wan Kenobi has the high ground. And he, for all intents and purposes, thinks that he killed Luke at that point in time. Thank you for the comment, though, Alex. I appreciate it. J.J. Williams writes this. Okay, I bust out laughing at you talking about Rey close talking to Kylo/Ben in the elevator. I mean, I know, right? I have to say, I'm not a fan of the Rey clone theory and lean more towards a vision. And then you go and get all ugly with her being a clone of Luke. But I do like Ben maybe bringing her back from the dark side. I am so excited for Ben/Kylo and Rey's lightsaber battle. And if this battle is towards the end, I don't know how the poster and the pick, Rey would be dark here since she has a blue lightsaber and different clothing. So it would have to happen earlier in the movie. So I lean more towards it being a vision, which I think is cool. I do think, however, that having Rey pulled to the dark side during the movie would be good and truly show that she also fought being pulled to the dark like Kylo/Ben is pulled to the light. Balance. Side note, I also like the Poe-Zori connection. Loved the Mandalorian trailer and, of course, loved Boba Fett. Strangely, I see some comparing of the Mandalorian to Rogue One, which I hope, not honestly, I was about Rogue One, says JJ. Great podcast. Thank you, JJ. I appreciate that. Yeah, I dig the whole Poe and Zori deal as well. I think that's going to be really cool. And the fact that they had Oscar Isaac doing the pressers with, oh gosh, why did her name escape me all of a sudden? Carrie Russell. God, my gosh, I don't know why my brain blanked there. I dig that, and I like that they're showing them together, and apparently they have a history with one another. I was never one to go and ship Storm Pilot. I thought that was a bit of a stretch, but neither here nor there. All right. Bloodheel writes this. I think either Palpatine possesses Rey. I do think that's interesting, too. She looks possessed. And the guy I work with, Drew, who does the show with me, he watched the special look with me and agreed with the comment that it looks like she was possessed. I think either Palpatine possesses Rey or Rey willingly listens to Palpatine doing his bidding, seeing that she finally has a purpose. And who knows, maybe she's related to him somehow and she wants to inherit the galaxy. Or maybe it's just a dream of what could become a type of Sith character. I think it's probably a dream thing. Thank you for the comment. I greatly appreciate that. Mary Shepard writes this. Please no Rey clone, ugh. I realize it's the galaxy far, far away. Maybe things work differently there, but I can't get beyond the real-world genetics in which a clone of Palpatine or Luke would be made. More importantly, Rey Nobody works thematically. She's a self-made woman who doesn't need to be descended from a famous former Force user to create her own identity. Plus, it's a perfect contrast to Ben Solo, who is a child of legacy, and both have their own contrasting set of identity issues that inform their choices. I think it would be a cave-in to the haters if Lucasfilm feels they have to make Rey the granddaughter or great-granddaughter of Palpatine or Obi-Wan or any of the Skywalkers. I think Rey Nobody fits her arc better. All right, Mary has spoken. Thank you for the email, Mary. Amanda B writes this. It's a really cool poster. I'm not sure what to think about Dark Rey. We'll have to wait and see where they go with it. I would like the idea of Palpatine turning Rey to have it be something to prompt Kylo/Ben being totally dark, since there would be everything on the dark side and nothing to make him go to the light side. But it doesn't work, and Ben brings Rey back to the light instead. But at this point, it could be anything. I've seen theories about it being Kylo's vision from the finger touch, or Palpatine taking over Rey's body, willingly sacrificing herself, or him taking over unwillingly, etc. All for the double-bladed lightsaber. Let me make a comment here real quick, too. J.J. Abrams was quoted as saying that there was nothing in Episode 8 that undid what they were trying to do. J.J. Abrams also said there were things that they're doing in Episode 7 that they couldn't... there were things they're doing in Episode 9 that they couldn't do in Episode 7. And then he went on to say that Episode 8, The Last Jedi, didn't really change anything they wanted to do. So I hope that puts to rest any of this idea of retconning. And let me say, too, that the scale of the Rise of Skywalker, right, has me obviously super excited. But I love the fact of what this trilogy is about to turn out to be in 4 months. You get this introduction into, back into Star Wars with this mashup, right, of the original trilogy and The Force Awakens, which is just a wonderfully delightful film. Then you get this artful, in my opinion, masterpiece of a Star Wars movie in The Last Jedi that is very different, right? It's a very personal film, even though it has some large-scale elements in it. It's a very personal film. But now we're going to wrap up with this epic, this massive scale, going for it, final film. And it has to be, right? I mean, that's the other part of this. And JJ's mentioned this in previous interviews, that this movie has to hold its own, but it also has to end the trilogy, and it also has to end the saga. So it really does make sense that it's going to be this massively long, epic film. And I'm for what this has the potential to be when all is said and done, it has me excited. Okay. Friend of the show, Jennifer Oliver, says this. Let's see. Hey, John, it was such a relief to hear you breaking down what has come through in D23. Kylo with the helmet off, right, staring at the Vader helmet in the cryo box. Definitely interesting. As far as Rey, I've said this before. I saw some graying of her character in The Last Jedi. 1, she's always had a quick-to-anger temperament, leads to the dark side. 2, her raw strength and going right to the dark side scared Luke. 3, she was inspired by Ben/Kylo telling her to kill the past and went to the dark hole, like she was willing to give something from the dark side a try. 4, she was wearing darker colors when she went to go see Ben Solo. Those are super basic things even. I am sure there are other subtleties that lend themselves to show that she was darkening. Thank you for the comments, Jennifer. Yeah, again, if this does end up being a dark side Rey, I'm all for it. I'm stunned and flummoxed as to how they would actually get it there and get her back, because they're not going to end it that way, right? Unless they end up doing 2 movies like I mentioned before, which I still think is a big possibility, but probably won't happen. All right, Blanca writes this. Dark Side Rey surprised me. I think maybe she's going on a phase or probably is a clone of her. People have mentioned that too. If it turns out that she was a clone of some way, shape, or form, that maybe this is her dark side counterpart. Again, I'm not really buying that, just throwing it out there. But the person who saw the footage says Rey's expression was blank. It sure was. She has no emotion on her face like a robot. If all this is true, my guess is that Kylo Ren/Redeem Ben will have to save Rey from the dark side, kind of like Bastila and the Raven stories that we've heard from other Star Wars fans. And another side note here. So I'm looking back. I'm trying to, in my mind, I'm going back through the teaser trailer. So the friends show up. You see the last shot of the teaser trailer is the heroes, which J.J. Abrams said are together through the whole movie. We see a group shot of them overlooking the celebration on Pisana. Okay. That looked incredible, by the way. I can't wait to see the celebration, whatever that celebration scene is that takes them all there. Probably searching for whatever MacGuffin it is. The order of the movie is what's key in all of this, because we see the group together as well, staring out at the Death Star crashed in the water. And if that does happen, towards the middle of the film, right, then one would say that Kylo Ren shows up and they battle there. Maybe that's not the final part of the movie. I would assume the massive space battle is a part of is a part of the finale of the film, right? We've seen how big and epic it is in scale. So the question I have is, where is that battle taking place relative to where our heroes are, in the same way that Return of the Jedi was played out? Okay. Again, just tossing out theories. Horror Nation writes this. I feel like Rey turning to the dark side will be a gotcha moment, and Rey will actually be going undercover with Kylo to take out his Knights of Ren, so Palpatine is the last remaining foe of them to face. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal considering they showed it off in the trailer. I hope this is not the case. Yeah, that's the thing too, man. If they're willing to show that in the trailer, then they obviously want to spark some imagination. But if it's supposed to be a big, huge reveal, unless they're trying to get us prepared for it, then I imagine it's probably not something where Rey turns and she's that way for a long time. Again, I could be wrong. Kyle Bookout writes this: so glad you reacted to this news so fast, John. So much to chew on. Lucasfilm knows how to mess with us sweaties. I mean, Darkside Rey, come on now. LOL. I don't know why I haven't said this before, but Jon Justice is such a great name for a DJ or a superhero. Keep the fantastic comment coming, man. Thanks. Would love to meet up in Anaheim 2020. Yeah, man, come meet me next year. That'd be fantastic. By the way, my real last name, for those that aren't aware, is actually Logiudice. Logiudice. It means justice in Italian. So I changed it when I got into radio because I even have a hard time saying Logiudice. So I changed it to Justice when I was younger. When I was younger, I don't know, some 24 years ago when I got into radio. My brother goes by Jim Justice too, so we kind of did it together. All right. Friend of the show, Miss Conduct 1 says this: I think Dark Rey is a vision Rey has, or Kylo has, or they both have. The only reason I feel that way is because most of the shots of her right side, or her light side apparel, and there's only the one shot of her as a dark side Rey. Maybe it's from the vision Kylo had when they touched hands, right? I saw you too in that moment. You'll turn. Remember that? Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. Is it December yet? LOL. I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to find out. Yeah, me too. All right. Let's see. Ella B writes this: there was talk about Ben and Rey having force bonds that take them both to flashes to different times and places. My guess is these force bonds happen while they are fighting on the destroyed Death Star in the water. Interesting. By the end of the fight, they've seen enough to make them realize they have to join up. Rey, as a Sith, could be one of those visions. No clones, please. Rey, nobody is all I need. Friend of the show. Thank you very, very much, Elle. Always appreciate your comments. Anthea Gaia. Amy writes this: I'm super stoked for all this new Star Wars content. The most probable explanation for Dark Rey, I think, is that it's a vision. Either Rey's or Kylo's. If it's Rey's vision, maybe it would be like Luke's vision of his face in Vader's helmet. Or maybe Kylo sees this and realizes Rey turning to the dark side is not what he really wants. Seems that this news has everyone excited, which is awesome. Yeah, man, that's what I'm excited for, too. Skydraphic writes this: I simply love that the sequels finally explore the what-ifs that have always been on my mind since watching Star Wars as a kid. Can a non-Jedi use a lightsaber? What happens if you hyperspeed, ram into some ship? What if a good guy actually goes full dark? What if the Jedi aren't right either, and the middle is the best way? Yeah, man, I'm with you. Again, I'll say it again. They're going for it in this movie. All right, let's go. Is this my last one? No, not yet. And my apologies to who wrote this. I didn't write the name down. Anyway, they said this: Hey there, John. It is said that Kylo Ren's lightsaber is as unfinished as his character. That's why it's unstable and had that fire-like attitude, which you can see in all the pictures and of the saber in the movie. Which means that at some point his saber must be finished and stable. Look like an ordinary lightsaber blade. If you look at the images of Vanity Fair of him fighting Rey in the rain, his lightsaber looks very calm and ordinary to me. Just my imagination? I'll have to go and look again. I'll watch it when this is over. Let's see. Okay, that's all I got for that one. Thank you so much for the comment. My apologies for not getting your name in there. Sorry. I cut and pasted all my listener feedback this week, and I must not have cut and pasted that. Irritated Pumpkin says this: I don't think there is enough time for Rey to turn to the dark side and back again. It does not feel like Rey is that kind of character. It has to be some sort of vision or quick possession from old Palpy himself. He would know where to stash the Sith weaponry, interesting, and equipment would be hidden to get the double-bladed lightsaber. All right. That is a really good point. Again, that's a weird one for me. And lastly, friend of the show, Tim, says this: I can't wait to see what you're going to say about the new trailer. There you go. You're welcome, Tim. Made me laugh and made me cry. And most of all, it confirmed my suspicions that Rey is a Palpatine clone. Uh-oh. Prepare for the heat, Tim. By the way, I just got back from basic training and everything went well. Sorry I couldn't help reading your book. I can't wait to get a copy and read through the trilogy myself. If you ever need help with the audiobooks, I've been told many times that I have a voice for audiobooks and would love to contribute any way I could. Keep doing your show, both of them, and I can't wait to hear your podcast later in the day. Sincerely, Tim. Thank you very much, Tim. I very much appreciate it. Speaking of the audiobook, it's just about done. I'm on my third listening session right now. Hopefully I got this one right, because I had to keep going back and editing things out that I missed the first time. And that's it for the show this week. Thank you so much for hanging out. As always, if you want to support the podcast, please go on by to Amazon.com and pick up either copy of my book. You can get the ebooks right now, each for just 99 cents. That is a massive bargain. You can also get the paperback for both books. EMBARK Book 1 is available as an audiobook as well. If you buy the ebook, you can get the audiobook for only $7.50 as opposed to $14. But please, gift them for a friend or buy a copy for yourself. Buy 2 copies. No. Go to Amazon.com, look for Jon, Jon Justice, and EMBARK, and you'll see both EMBARK and Treasure in Darkness. The reviews have been coming in for Treasure in Darkness, and I couldn't be happier. Everybody seems really, really pleased with the story, and I'm so excited that everybody's liking the second book. I really tried to create something that was tighter than the first book was. The first book is very large and epic in scope, and I really wanted to create a tight, good, action-filled, heart-filled, emotional, fun, exciting space opera middle chapter, and I'm just ecstatic with the way that it turned out and what the response has been so far. So if you want something to satisfy your science fiction fandom, go pick up a copy of EMBARK Book 1 or EMBARK Treasure in Darkness Book 2, both available right now at Amazon.com. And that's it. I'm going to go play Battlefront 2 and take a break for a little while, because I've been working all day since about 2:30 this morning, and I'm tired, and my beloved dog Bella is staring at my bedroom/office door, desperately wanting to go out. So I'm going to let her out and tell you that thank you so much for downloading the show, and I'll be back again this coming weekend. I look forward to hearing from you between now and then.
The Force will be with you, always.
My nerd world.